Well, good morning and welcome to Sports Today. I'm Ridhima Pathak. And of course, there are a lot of rumors and then there are a lot of strategies and there are a lot of things that have been said about the upcoming test, which is the Boxing Day test. But before that, we've got an update on Rohit Sharma. And as you all know, that in our previous shows where we mentioned about what it takes for an athlete mentally to be in a small 2 BHK quarantined when you have your team performing the way it is and not being able to contribute. But before we head to our expert to tell us what an athlete goes through, I have Boryada to give us an update on Rohit Sharma and the prospect of him in the third test. So let's welcome the two gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bora Majumdar and Partha Varanasi. He is a poly-extreme athlete trying to explore the human ability to capture mental and physical extreme abilities there, and also a mental condition coach for elite athletes. And we've got Bora Majumdar, as you can see. Welcome to the show, Partha.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I must tell everybody he's joining us from Mangalore, and he has an extremely beautiful farm there, and he trains a lot of students and a lot of athletes there. We have lost Boryada's video. I don't know if Boryada can hear us. Boryada, can you hear us though? Well, I think we lost network. But Partha, tell me more about what do you do, and also the importance of mental conditioning of athletes.
So I'm a high performance coach, especially in swimming. Trained athletes from all different age groups through to the senior category to world championships and also the Olympic hopefuls. Now, the physical part of the sport is one thing, and the second part is the mental training. A sport looks like a very physical thing, but it is quite mental because whatever the actions that you do, it comes straight from your brain, right? So the motor
Yeah.
cortex in your brain tells you what to do, and the coordination, the movements, the reactions, all these things. Even in sports like cricket, see the ball is coming towards you, you got to judge it, and you got to respond, like whatever the response is required. Now, if you have, and the brain is not just about action and reaction, and there is emotions, and there are many other things which can hamper your action and reaction, the cause and effect. So the mental conditioning plays a huge part in sports as well, if it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to tell you that the comment section is already buzzing. Boryada will be joining us, and a lot of our people in the comment section are saying that you look like Ajinkya Rahane, which actually is kind of true if you think about it. But having said that, coach,
Yes.
I mean, we all know what Rohit Sharma is going through. How does it affect an athlete when you're quarantined for 14 days in a small 2 BHK? There, we've got Boryada. Boryada, but first of all, let's start with an update on Rohit Sharma. What is happening, and also the cluster of COVID-19 that is being formed that has happened in Sydney. So what is the update there?
Okay, I'm sorry I missed what Partha said there. So I would love to sort of get it back. I'll take a look at it. But the update on Rohit, there are three things here. One, like I told you, first think about this, and Partha can comment as an expert. Uh, Rohit is in a two-bedroom apartment in Sydney, and he's not allowed to step out of the room. He's not allowed to step out of the apartment. He's trying to do his exercise and watching television shows and stuff in that apartment when all of this is spiraling out in Sydney. Because if you see in India, for us, the number of cases are very small here. I mean, 29, 30, 31, or whatever you're calling it. Yesterday, there were 13 cases. There were 13 cases in Sydney. But the point is, Cricket Australia flew out David Warner and Sean Abbott on Saturday. Cricket Australia flew out their two cricketers who are part of their schema for the Melbourne Test match out of Sydney on Saturday. And that's the most important thing. And at the same time, there is so much talk. There's a media statement out from Cricket Australia which says that it is monitoring the situation in Sydney and how the situation is growing, and only then will it take a call on the third and New Year Test match, which is still supposed to be played at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Now, if you are Rohit Sharma, you are in a two-bedroom apartment, not allowed to step out. And here you are learning and reading that Cricket Australia has flown two of its cricketers out of Sydney, David Warner and Sean Abbott. and you are not allowed to do that. You can't even get on a chartered aircraft. You can't even leave for Melbourne. What is your mind going through then? My question is, what about mental strength here? Because if you are that athlete, and you are reading it, by the way, you've got 24 hours doing nothing, frankly, because you are not allowed to even go out and train and get your mind in order. So you are seeing that your colleagues flying out of Sydney to Melbourne, and you are stuck there for the next 10 days. This was yesterday. So another 10 days. Yesterday was his day number 4. Today is day number 5. So another 9 days you are stuck in Sydney. Now, if you see social media, there are a lot of people who have been critical of Rohit Sharma. Okay, and we keep talking about intent, that an athlete has to show intent. Look, will he get runs in Sydney? Will he not get runs in the third test, whether it's Sydney or somewhere else, or fourth test? No one knows. Cricket is a one-ball game. You can get out first ball for 0. That's fine, and I take that. I mean, I am also saying that if you really analyze, without a tour game in Australia to get runs is Herculean. So Rohit is up against it. Now, frankly, while we know all that, we are interested in an athlete's intent. What was the easy way out for Rohit Sharma? He's got everything going for him at this point. He's IPL champion for Mumbai Indians. All he could have said is, this 14-day quarantine is impossible to deal with. Frankly, 2 test matches, I'm going to continue at the NCA with my rehab. I will get fit. I will get ready in January, and I will join, play whatever domestic cricket there is and play the England series at home. Will anybody have questioned Rohit Sharma had he done that? I need 15 more days to get ready. No. What did he do? He chose the hardest route. He got on a flight, took the risk, went to Australia, got himself into a 14-day hard quarantine, knowing that his mind will be screwed, completely gone. Because if you are there in such a situation with spiraling COVID cases. So, folks, while we criticize athletes and players and, take pot shots, for God's sake, look at the intent of the man. There was no reason for him to choose these 2 test matches, knowing there is every reason that he can fail. But that is the intent that Virat talks about. That is the intent that all of us talk about or look in an athlete. And that's what I want to ask Partha. That Partha, given this is the scenario, can you explain to us and our viewers what this man must be going through, and what does his actions tell you? What is your inference from all of this as to what he wants to do for Team India?
Thank you. And basically, it all boils down to that time, right? So for someone like Rohit Sharma, is to go into the field and he has to face that first ball until the time he, gets settled, whatever they say, getting settled in the pitch or something. Till then, he has all these 2 weeks of quarantine, preparing himself, going into that moment of truth. Then again, he has the training. Everyone else is going on the training, and he's not doing that. And plus, on top of that, he has the pressure of performing because he's in form batsman. So all this comes into play when he has to perform. So, the mental thing is, the mental conditioning is very important for athletes. We do a lot of physical conditioning, but the mental conditioning part completely gets let out. So when they are actually in form and performing, we can call that they're in a flow state. Right? To get into the flow state, you have to do certain other things to reach there. You have to stress a lot, and then work really hard, and then there should be a release phase. And after the release phase, you get into the flow phase where you come to the ground and you can smash every ball. But if he's not going through that, and if he has to go through the quarantine and also the other criticism, which he's getting from the social media and other things, it's not going to help. So, especially at high performance, the athletes, international athletes, especially cricketers, going and playing in the field with so many people watching and with so much expectations, they are expected to deliver. To give that kind of delivery, they need to go through certain mental conditioning. And some quarantine like this, I don't think it's going to help, or even the criticism, for that matter. Like it's not scientifically, it's not possible to deliver. I mean, magics happen all the time. But having said that, those who have studied the flow state of mind, who have studied about high performance through mental training, they always say that you need that stress period, you need the training period, hard work, and then the release phase, and then the flow state comes. So Yeah, I think that kind of answers how difficult situations these athletes are in at the moment due to COVID and due to also the other media pressure that they are taking upon themselves.
So how does an athlete overcome that kind of pressure? What is the process?
Um, Yeah, I mean, they also need a lot of external help for this, a proper systematic routine to reach that particular day, and also studying themselves. For athletes, I mean, for swimmers, what we do is we have the daily records been is noted down, like how do they feel each day, mentally, physically, and it gets recorded until during their training times and during their season, like to the race day. So on the race day, we study like what was the performance and how much of it is coming from mental stress or mental readiness. And based on their experience, it's all individual in the end of the day. So we keep that record and then study each one's record and then finally say, look, this works because he performed really good or she performed really good on this day. Leading up to that day, we have done certain things. There is a procedure to reach that state. Like I said, you stress, you work hard, you release, and then you perform. So basically, giving an example, stressing means okay, we have a big test match coming up 1 month from now, the Australia tour. So the athletes stress on that, and then they work really hard. So they're like expecting. So they've done with IPL, they've done with a very fast pace game, and now they have to shift their focus into a very slow pace, which is test match, with a lot of patience, waiting for the right ball to come. They need to train themselves for that. So whether they do it in the ground, in the field, in the nets, or with their coach and their teammates, they do that. They work really hard, and then they have to go through the release phase. The release phase could be they travel to Australia. They need to not think about the fast bowlers of Australia or the pitches of Australia, but just to relax. Do something that they love, which is not obviously not cricket, other than cricket, and then they head into the match the previous day or the day they're leading into the game. Then they start thinking about it, and they'll be able to perform. So this is a general principle to get into that flow state or the high peak performance state and mental state. Um, yeah, so if they do that, I think it'll help them to achieve better.
Coach, what is the best way to get out of emotional fatigue? Because what Rohit Sharma or any person probably in his situation might be going through is something called as emotional fatigue. You have a couple of concerns, and also there is a performance pressure. How does one, in the most practical way, break emotional fatigue?
See, change of work is rest. That's what we keep hearing, right? So that goes for the brain as well, the mental thing as well. So if he does something which is not related to something which gives him stress, the Rohit Sharma doesn't ever have to worry about facing a fast bowler or a spinner or anybody because he's done that. He's an expert in that. He's smashed pretty much all the bowlers around the world, and he's out there being one of the best out there. So he doesn't have to stress out to perform, but that stress is hurting him. So if he needs to release that stress, he needs to think or do things which doesn't stress him. It could be completely different. He could just, I mean, again, he's in quarantine, but if he has access, he can just go do some other sport. Just take a jet ski and go around in the beach, or try out different sport, or just go and watch his favorite movie or something. Basically put his mind out of this stress. Anything, if he thinks about cricket, he obviously will start looking at the media or the criticism he's getting or the team is getting. Then the stress level will increase. So that's not what we want to do. Now the objective here is to perform in the field, and the only thing which is stopping him from performing is probably the stress. And if you can get rid of this stress by doing some other activity or not focusing um, on the thing which is giving him stress, I think that'll help him. Hope that makes sense.
Murida?
You see,
Murida?
for me, what I heard Partha say there makes Rohit's decision that much more significant. I mean, clearly what Partha said is scientifically he feels it's very difficult, extremely difficult to perform with this 14-day hard quarantine, and then you add no tour games. Now, for me, that tells you the mental state of an athlete. That tells me what an athlete is all about. Frankly, in Rohit's case, again, I repeat this. Again, in Rohit's case, it is a Herculean ask, and Partha summed it up very well, to perform in Sydney. We all know that. Now, Rohit could have easily chosen not to opt for this. He could have said, fair point. I mean, it is not as if he doesn't know all this. He knows there is a support act there. I'm sure Rohit knows that the odds are stacked against him. He knows that the moment if he doesn't score in Sydney or in Brisbane, people will jump at him. Does he not know that? He's not a spring chicken. He's not a kid. He does. Even after that, he has decided to put all of this at, on the line, at risk, and go. Now that gives me a lot of heart about an athlete. That allows me to respect an athlete that much more. Because clearly he could have opted not to play these 2 test matches, relax in India, come back for the England series on home soil. Rohit Sharma, against any attack, you will back him to get multiple hundreds out of 4 test matches, maybe 2. But Rohit Sharma going to Australia, putting credibility on the line, taking these chances, tells me this is a show of intent. Tells me this is what this man wants to do. Tells me how desperate he is to play these 2 test matches for India and try and contribute to the country and make a difference. Tells me that this is what I want in an athlete who I think is going to represent my country at the international stage against the best fast bowling attack of our times, taking maximum amount of pressure. That's what sport is about. And that is why I say, while it is very easy to type 140 characters and troll and criticize and lambast and blast and, sort of write filthy words and abuse, for God's sake, put yourself in that position once and then tell me, you want to train, you can't train. You want to step out of the house, you can't step out of the house. Point is, look at what this man is going through and just appreciate that. We will not be able to do this. I mean, so that's why Partha's perspective was so important for me. Why are we doing this show? We are trying to give people a mirror that look at this man, what he's trying to do for himself and for the country and for his team. Now, if this is not a show of intent, I really don't know what intent is.
Yep. So here's a question. Now, this might not be applicable to Rohit Sharma because he's a very experienced batsman there. But when a player is going through a high performance pressure and with intent like that, what happens when he has to actually perform? Does his intent overpower his capability to perform there, or it boosts him to perform better? Which of the two scenarios actually happen? Partha.
Okay, so this is a very good question. So we keep talking about inverted U in high performance, like mental conditioning. So this is the U, all right. So one edge of the U. It'd be nice if I have a paper. Anyway, so I'll take this. Okay, so this is a U, right? If this is the bottom of one side and the other side is the another bottom, and on the top you have the middle ground. So okay, so this bottom, say the guy is someone like Rohit Sharma, who's super experienced, who doesn't really worry. The going to the field doesn't really worry him. He's done that thousands of times. He's faced all the bowlers. He's really cool. Okay, another guy, somebody who's coming new to the team, and he's on the other edge where he's very much worried. Like he's worried about being in there and being in the spotlight, facing the bowlers, being in pitch in Australia. So his worry is way too much compared to somebody who's coming, who's already been in the field a lot. Now, these kind of, when people are put into these situations, there's certain chemical reactions happen in the brain. There's a certain mixture of your adrenaline, your cortisol level, the tension which builds up. It should be right in the middle. So that's why we call it the top of the inverted U. So if we have these chemicals in the right balance, they are at the optimum level to deliver the maximum performance. Now, again, all these players are the best of our country, so they know what they have to do. But it's the fear, it's the other mental aspects which might block them from performing at the best. But like I said, if you have the right amount of these hormones such as dopamine and serotonin in your brain, that blocks fear. Suddenly you're in that stage and it doesn't matter the people are watching you, or that fear is not there. You can kind of compare the fear of getting in the pitch and you're going into batting, or being in the spotlight of a bowler, to the tension of a guy who's going to give a speech to 1,000 people or 10,000 people. It's the same kind of fear that they're going to face. But again, if they are prepared properly, they need to be worried, but at the same time, they shouldn't be too much worried. Okay, they need to be excited about it at the right amount, which kind of blocks the fear off and gives out full performance. So this is what's required for the youngsters who's just getting into the team and getting these new experiences of going abroad and facing the fast bowlers in the new pitches. So that the balance is very much important in the mental aspect.
Bhurita? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, based on what Partha just said, in Rohit's case, unfortunately, he will not be able to be best prepared. I mean, if he does want to be best prepared, what he just said, he can't. I mean, that is the other issue here, because he knows that his quarantine will end on 29th, 30th December. He will get 7 days to or 8 days to train, and he gets into the match without a single tour game, maybe a few net sessions, and not having played a test match in 1 year. So I am 100% sure that that'll play on his mind. How does he get to overcome that? I mean, this is an unnatural world, and that's what I keep talking about. I mean, it is important on Sports Today to dispel a few things. And by the way, no disrespect to anyone. There was a suggestion, I think, from Dilip Vengsarkar, saying that Rahul Dravid should be sent to Australia at this point in time to help with the Indian batting. Now, let's say this on Sports Today, that this is an impractical suggestion. Dilip Bhai is a very dear friend, but this is an impractical suggestion. Why? Because if you want to send Rahul, now you send Rahul when? Tomorrow, day after? That's what you will do. The earliest today is 21st. Now you put Rahul on a 23rd flight. Now, Rahul's on a 23rd flight. The day he will land in whichever part of Australia, he has to do a 14-day hard quarantine again. So his hard quarantine ends on the 8th of Jan, which is already into the third test. What will he contribute? How will he help? In what way can Rahul Dravid help the Indian batting if he reaches the nets for the first time on 8th of Jan? And what will play on his mind? Number two, there has been a suggestion to send Ishant Sharma because, to replace Mohammad Shami. The question is the same, that Ishant Sharma will get on a flight, go to Australia, get out of quarantine on 7th and 8th. So basically, he has one test match to play, that is Brisbane. Second point, he will not even get a tour game. So he doesn't, and he's a fast bowler. So you will put him on the pitch by not giving him a single game, and you sent him to Australia, following which he's done a 14-day hard quarantine. This is what my point is to what Partha just said, that how does one overcome even this? Because this is an unnatural world. You want to go out and train, you're COVID negative because you've done multiple tests. At the same time, there are government regulations. So this, I don't think any one of us will ever encounter this ever again. I know people are blocking borders with the UK for a new strand of the virus, etc. But over the next few months till Easter, there will be massive vaccination rollout in London and all parts of the UK, so that by spring, they are well and truly on top of COVID. So it's a 2-month phenomenon. 2020 will not come back. So what Rohit Sharma is going through is unique, which no coach, no person, no analyst, no observer has ever experienced, because this is a once in a lifetime 100-year phenomenon that you and I are seeing, and we really don't know. And that makes me that much more sensitive, being that much more, trying to understand why Rohit chose this option, and adds to my respect for an athlete for the show of intent.
Absolutely. So here's a question I have for Partha. Partha, how have you as a coach shifted gears for athletes to be training in conditions like this, where going out may not be a possibility, especially in a sport like swimming?
Yeah, it's been quite hard for swimming because the swimming pools were the last ones to open up. So we've been training them in farm ponds, in rivers, and in the open water, in the ocean and stuff. Again, it's very, very tough because 2020, the Olympics is going to happen, and Olympics is not happening, and all that mental conditioning that we did for the training and preparation, and then qualifying for the Olympics, that's all has gone out of the toss. And then we have athletes who have no idea when is the next competition is coming and how they're going to plan their macro cycle or their microcycles, and how they're going to peak. None of it is, in structure at the moment. It's been really tough. So what we've done is we just focused on developing their the physical conditioning a bit. It's basically their agility, mobility, stability, flexibility, and improving their body control. So we've been working on that, and like just hoping for the best, so that the seasons open up, the competitions come back, and our athletes can get back to doing what they do best, is go out there and race, um, help each other. So, yeah, it's been tough.
All right, we're all lingering on hope. Now we've got various questions in the comment section. Purya, the number one question where Rahul's asking: does Rohit have to prove fitness after quarantine again?
No. See, what do you mean you have to prove? It's not about proving. Obviously, the team management will assess. Ultimately, the team management will have to assess if he's ready. Now, if it's a player of Rohit Sharma's ability who's passed the fitness test at the NCA, but the question is, you're doing a 14-day hard quarantine when you're not training. So, what will that do to your body? What will that do to your fitness levels? That is what they will assess. And okay, let's put it this way: chances are, I mean, very, very, very unlikely that Rohit will not play it. He will. So that's what all of us expect. He's gone to Australia because he's fit. If he was unfit, would he go? No. So that's what the team management needs to assess after Melbourne, that once his quarantine is over, when he's doing the nets, that if the hard 14-day quarantine has impacted him adversely, which I don't think it will, physically at least. So that's the answer to that one.
All right. We've got another question. So I think we've answered this question, but Sumit Patel is asking, just to re-emphasize it once again, Burida, can Rohit play as opener in the third test? The answer to that is mostly yes, given the...
Yeah, he will. I mean, I can tell you this much. If Rohit Sharma is playing, he will open. Because from what I understand from the Indian team management and the think tank, they don't want him to be in the dressing room for too long, because they think he's just too good. If he has to have impact, he'll have impact. And they will give him the opener slot, which is difficult. I mean, I was thinking, for example, that should he bat 5 with Shubman opening and sort of get the new ball when the polish is off a little bit and all that. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think if Rohit plays, which again, according to me, is very, very likely that he will indeed open for India in Sydney.
Okay, which gets me to a question to Partha again. Coach, tell me, there is this player, the best player of the country, not being able to play because he's injured. So a new player gets a chance to play instead of him, which is a huge opportunity for that player. Now, the next day, the opportunity might be taken away for two reasons. A, the best player is back, or B, this new player has not been able to perform. Now, the pressure in which a young player performs because he's a replacement, take me through that, and how does it affect his performance?
Yeah, I think he's obviously going through a huge pressure at that time. Also depends upon what kind of background that player has and where he has come from. So it's always steps, training and adaptation. Whether you're physical, whether you're mental, it's always you train and you adapt. You train and adapt. So if the young player who's replacing the veteran, if he has gone through these kind of pressures before, if he's been in that situation before, I think he will be able to, perform just. I mean, whatever he can do at that time. The mental pressure won't get to him. But if all the time he's had all the good things going on to him, and he hasn't been through any of the tough situations, then I think the whole situation might get to him. So it's very important not to have this pressure on when you're playing, because again, like I said, you need your brain committed to do their activities. If playing cricket or playing batting or bowling, rather than worrying about other things. The minute he starts worrying about other things, he's stressed out. There is a block. There's a lot of, the brain is full of electrical impulses, right? There's the reactions and then these charges happening in your brain. So if he's thinking of something else, if he's worried, that will block his ability to play. So it again depends upon his background. If he's used to that kind of situations before, as nobody becomes a national player or plays for India overnight. They go through the steps of their journey, where they've had the physical training. At the same time, they've gone through a lot of tough times, dealing with the local teams, and then coming into the Ranji, and then coming into these leagues, and then finally making it to the national team. So during that time, the training happens. The training may happen in a um, structured manner, or it could be more casual, not casual, just like through experience. So both are learning. So if he has gone through these tough challenges through his life, he will come out with a better innings on the day he has to perform. So yeah, it depends on his experience, I think.
All right, we've got another question. We've got ET asking, what do you think will be Virat's mindset, who's leaving the test because of his paternity leave right now, given that he has to leave and face trolls on family, while, of course, his newborn is coming to the world? What do you think is that mindset?
Firstly, I don't think Virat should even bother about such trolls because they're idiots. And that's my answer, because if somebody is trolling someone who is coming back to his pregnant wife for the birth of their first child, as human beings, all we need to do is be sensitive and respect that. So if someone's trolling Virat for that, for coming back, is a ridiculous human being. That's all I will say. I mean, I was about to say something which is perhaps not justified on air. So I don't think Virat will even read any of that, or will he bother? Because that's not even in the realm of anyone's jurisdiction. None of us have the right to interfere in anyone's private decision making. As a cricketer and as a captain of India, Virat is under public scrutiny, but he's no longer that now. He's now a father, or will be father, and a husband, and a son. So he's coming back to doing familial duty. So let's leave him alone. As far as Virat Kohli is concerned, I think he should switch off. He should come back and be with family. Obviously, he'll follow the team because it's his team and all of that. But for the moment, if he's chosen a particular thing, which again I think is sensitive and very human to do, he should just focus on that, because cricket will keep coming and going. This moment will never again come back in his life. So my answer to this is, if anyone's trolling him or his family at this point in time, please give it a thought. If it was you, and he's also a human being, would you do it with your own brother or your own sister or your own family? And you will get the answer.
Interesting. Now, one last question, Boreda, before we close the show. Any news about Warner playing Boxing Day?
Let's leave it for another show. Because
that's a googly.
I will figure this out a little more. Obviously, he has flown to Melbourne. And we know Cricket Australia got to Melbourne on Saturday. So allow me a little more time, because again, on Sports Today, we define agenda by breaking news. So we will give people conclusive proof or definitive news of what we believe will happen. That much I can guarantee. So give me maybe some more hours, or maybe a little time to get an official word or a confirmation on this before I give you the news.
Perfect. Well, good question, Sid Malhotra. Thank you so much, Coach. Thank you so much, Coach Partha. That was very insightful. Thank you for joining
Absolutely.
in. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Partha. Yeah,
thank you for having. Thank you, Bhaiya. Nice to.
Thank you, Boreda. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Thank you for all your questions. And of course, stay tuned to Sports Today. I hope that was insightful. And during these unpredictable times, I think all of us need to focus on what our mindset is at. And also, the players who are playing are our very big inspirations, because that's where we take notes from to do better in our lives. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you for all the questions. I'll see you soon.